Blessed women have these secret signs, ladies and gentlemen, you know. We often talk about success, confidence, resilience, all these powerful traits we admire in people. But there's a particular kind of power, a quieter strength, that lives within a certain kind of woman. Not flashy, not loud, but unmistakable. She's what I call a blessed woman. Now, when I say blessed, I don't mean she's lucky. I mean she's aligned, grounded, purpose driven, and if you watch closely, she shows subtle signs, secret signs of her inner power. Most people miss them. When you look at the truly powerful women of the world, the kind that don't just lead with strength, but live with meaning, you'll notice something very different about how they move through life. They're not rushing, they're not scrambling, they're not desperately trying to impress. Instead, there's a quiet certainty about them, a calm, a direction. That's because they know their why. You see, most people live their lives by default. They follow trends, they chase approval, they tick boxes that someone else told them mattered, but not the blessed woman. She lives by design. Her actions flow from something deeper, something anchored. She doesn't just wake up and ask, "What do I need to do today?" She starts with a bigger question. Why am I doing any of this at all? That question changes everything. Because when you know your why, you stop being controlled by pressure. Pressure to fit in, pressure to keep up, pressure to prove yourself, pressure to perform. That pressure loses its grip when your purpose becomes clear. I remember talking to a woman who ran a nonprofit in a small town. She wasn't famous, she wasn't rich, but she was respected, deeply. People trusted her, her voice mattered. I asked her what kept her going after so many years, after all the obstacles, the sleepless nights, the lack of recognition. She smiled and said, "Because I'm doing what I was born to do. I couldn't walk away from this even if I tried." That's what purpose does. It roots you. It gives you staying power, and it allows you to walk into rooms without needing to dominate them. Because when you're clear on why you're here, you stop seeking validation from places that can't give it to you. Purpose also brings focus. The blessed woman doesn't say yes to everything because she's not interested in everything. She's not driven by fear of missing out. She's driven by alignment. If something doesn't serve her mission, she lets it go. And that's not selfish, that's strategic. Because every yes to the wrong thing is a no to the right one. This kind of woman also has a different relationship with failure. She doesn't see setbacks as signs that she's off track, she sees them as part of the path. When you have a purpose, failure isn't fatal. It's feedback, it's fuel. It teaches you, it strengthens you, and it refines you. That's how purpose turns pressure into perseverance. Here's the truth most people won't tell you. The world will try to define you. It'll try to name your value. It'll try to put you in boxes. But when you live from your purpose, you become unlabelable. You're not just somebody's employee, or someone's partner, or a role society assigned you. You're a force, you're a story, you're a vision walking, and the most incredible part, purpose isn't loud. It's not always glamorous. Sometimes it's quiet, behind the scenes, even unseen by the world. But the blessed woman doesn't need an audience. She needs alignment. That's her reward. That's her peace. So if you're in a season of searching, if you're asking big questions, or wondering why your life feels like it's on autopilot, start here. Not with what you want, but why you want it. Get to the core of who you are and what drives you. Because when a woman finds her purpose, she doesn't just change her life. She changes the world. Let me know if you want this formatted for video narration, or if you'd like to turn it into a blog, podcast script, or Instagram caption series. There's something profoundly powerful about a woman who chooses peace over pressure. Not because she doesn't have reasons to react, but because she's made a conscious decision not to live at the mercy of chaos. In a world that thrives on noise, distraction, and speed, where everyone is told to hustle harder, be louder, do more, the blessed woman does something radical. She protects her peace. She understands that peace isn't a luxury. It's not something you get around to once everything else is done. For her, peace is essential. It's sacred. It's what allows her to function from a place of clarity rather than confusion. strength instead of stress, and calm instead of crisis. And make no mistake, this kind of peace doesn't just happen. It's not the absence of problems, it's the presence of priorities. The blessed woman isn't void of stress or struggle. She simply refuses to let those things define her. She's learned, often the hard way, that giving away your peace is like pouring your energy into a bucket with a hole in it. No matter how much you pour, you'll always end up empty. So she chose a different way. She learned how to say no. No to obligations that aren't aligned. No to conversations that drain her. No to the guilt that comes from not pleasing everyone. And let's be clear, this kind of peace keeping isn't passive. It's active. It requires discipline. It requires self-awareness. It requires the courage to walk away from things that once felt comfortable, but were never truly healthy. I once sat with a woman who led a global team. Sharp, respected, accomplished. But what stood out most wasn't her resume, it was her energy. She was grounded, composed. She didn't rush her answers or force her presence. She was fully there, fully still. I asked her what her secret was. She said, "I've trained myself to protect what can't be seen, my peace of mind. If I lose that, everything else falls apart." And that hit me. Because we spend so much time managing schedules, chasing outcomes, maintaining appearances, but how much time do we spend protecting our peace? The blessed woman knows that not every battle is worth fighting. Not every opinion deserves a response. Not every invitation deserves a yes. She understands the difference between being busy and being aligned. She has nothing to prove, and that's what makes her so powerful. She also curates her environment with intention. She surrounds herself with voices that speak life, not noise. She makes space for silence, for rest, for reflection. And it's not because she's lazy or disengaged, it's because she understands that real strength is sustainable only when it's rooted in stillness. Even in the middle of a storm, she can be centered. Because peace isn't something she waits for, it's something she builds. And building peace often means choosing discomfort now to avoid dysfunction later. She might walk away from a toxic friendship, set a boundary with a family member, say no to an opportunity that doesn't align with her values. And while others may not always understand, she does it anyway because her well-being is not up for negotiation. The world often misinterprets this kind of woman. They may call her cold, or distant, or too strong. But in reality, she is simply choosing to be whole. And here's the beautiful truth. When a woman lives in peace, she becomes a place of peace. For her family, for her team, for her community. Her presence calms storms. Her words create space. Her energy is healing. So if you're ever in doubt about where your power lies, don't look at how much noise you can make. Look at how much peace you can keep. Because a blessed woman doesn't just carry peace, she is peace. Let me know if you want this transformed into a script, voiceover, or styled for any social media format. There's a quiet, often overlooked kind of strength in a woman who chooses to build rather than battle. In a world that frequently pits people against each other, a blessed woman makes a different choice. She chooses collaboration over competition. It's not that she's not ambitious. It's not that she lacks drive or talent. On the contrary, she is fully aware of her capability. She just understands something deeper. We rise higher when we rise together. There's a misconception in our culture that power is scarce, that for one woman to win, another must lose. That if she gets the spotlight, someone else has to step back into the shadows. But the blessed woman doesn't subscribe to that scarcity mindset. She believes in abundance, in the idea that success isn't pie, there's more than enough to go around. I remember sitting in on a panel discussion with a group of highly accomplished women entrepreneurs, artists, executives. When asked about their biggest turning points, almost every single one mentioned another woman who believed in them. Gave them a chance, opened a door, made a call. In the background of every strong woman's story was often another strong woman who chose to lift rather than compete. That's the secret. The blessed woman doesn't see another woman's glow as a threat, she sees it as proof that it's possible. She celebrates other women's wins because she understands something critical. Someone else's light doesn't dim her own. In fact, when we light each other's candles, the whole room gets brighter. She doesn't tear others down, she builds bridges. She recommends names in rooms they aren't in. She claps loudly when it's not her turn. She mentors without holding back, because she knows legacy isn't built on applause, it's built on impact. But this mindset doesn't just happen. Often, it comes from experience. The blessed woman has seen what envy can do, how it poisons potential, fractures friendships, and keeps people small. She's felt the sting of being excluded, underestimated, or dismissed. And instead of repeating that cycle, she chose to rewrite it. She's also deeply secure in herself. That's the key. She doesn't compete because she doesn't have to. She's not defined by comparison. She knows who she is, what she brings, and why it matters. That internal stability frees her to genuinely support others because she's not chasing validation, she's living in her truth. You can feel it when you're around her. Her energy is warm, not tense. Her smile is real, her compliments are sincere, and when she offers help, it's not to look good, it's because she means it. This kind of woman shifts culture. She turns workplaces into communities. She turns gatherings into growth spaces. She doesn't gossip, she affirms. She doesn't withhold, she shares. And that spirit, that collaborative energy, it's contagious. She teaches by example that we don't lose anything by lifting others. In fact, we gain stronger networks, deeper relationships, more meaningful success. Because let's face it, achievement is hollow if you have to stand on someone else to get it. One of the most powerful things a woman can do is simply show up for another woman. With no hidden agenda, no rivalry, just presence, support, belief. And the blessed woman does this naturally, not because she wants recognition, but because she remembers what it felt like to need someone who believed in her. And so she becomes that person for someone else. In a world that tries to divide, she unites. In a culture obsessed with competition, she creates community. Because the blessed woman doesn't just rise, she brings others with her. And that's real power. Let me know if you want this adapted into an article, visual carousel, or video form. I'd happy to help shape it for whatever platform you need. One of the most defining qualities of a truly blessed woman is not how much she knows, but how deeply she's willing to keep learning. She doesn't pretend to have all the answers. She doesn't fake perfection. She doesn't wrap herself in the illusion that strength means never asking for help. Instead, she lives with the mindset that growth is the goal, not just achievement, not just recognition, but evolution. Constant, conscious, courageous evolution. That's what makes her powerful. You see, the blessed woman understands that who she is today is not the final version of who she can become. She doesn't settle, not because she's ungrateful, but because she knows there's always more to uncover, more wisdom to gain, more perspective to adopt, more parts of herself waiting to be revealed. She's a student of life. And she doesn't just learn from books or degrees, though she values those too. She learns from people, from experience, from failure, from observation, from quiet moments and painful lessons. She's always listening, always watching, always growing. Her curiosity is not childish, it's courageous. I once met a woman in her 60s who had reinvented her career 3 times. She had started over more than once, not because she failed, but because she outgrew the version of herself that once fit into a certain role. I asked her, "Weren't you afraid to start again?" She said, "Of course, but fear doesn't mean stop. It means pay attention, learn, move carefully, but keep moving." That's the heart of the growth mindset. The blessed woman is not afraid to look inward. She doesn't run from hard questions. She reflects. She confronts her blind spots. She's honest enough to admit when she doesn't know and humble enough to seek the answer. Not to impress, but to improve. In a world that celebrates instant results, she's patient with her process. She knows transformation takes time. She trusts the seasons of becoming, and that trust gives her a quiet confidence, not the kind that shouts, but the kind that shows up. Consistently, willingly, ready to learn. She also gives herself permission to evolve, to change her mind, to shift direction, to outgrow things she once prayed for. And instead of clinging to an outdated version of herself just to make others comfortable, she chooses authenticity over approval. She doesn't fear correction, she welcomes it when it comes from a place of love and truth. She knows that feedback is not failure, it's fertilizer. It helps her grow stronger roots and better fruit. She learns from criticism, but she doesn't let it define her. And perhaps most importantly, the blessed woman is not threatened by someone else who knows more. She seeks mentors. She surrounds herself with people who stretch her. She's not intimidated by other people's wisdom, she's inspired by it, because she's secure enough to know that someone else's brilliance doesn't diminish her own. It illuminates the way forward. This mindset of growth spills into everything she touches: her career, her relationships, her parenting, her leadership. She asks better questions, she makes wiser choices, she listens more deeply, and because she's always learning, she's always expanding. And here's the thing: she doesn't grow just for herself. She grows so she can help others grow too. She becomes a light, a guide, a mentor. She turns her lessons into legacy. Her journey becomes a map that others can follow. Because the blessed woman doesn't see growth as something she has to do. She sees it as something she gets to do. She's not chasing perfection. She's choosing progression, and that mindset, that's not just inspiring, it's unstoppable. Let me know if you'd like this formatted for a blog, podcast episode, or turned into a visual content piece. There's a quiet kind of courage in a woman who has walked through pain and come out softer, not harder. Who's carried grief, betrayal, heartbreak, and disappointment, and instead of letting it define her, she let it refine her. That's the kind of woman who understands healing isn't a destination, it's a decision. A process, a sacred choice made over and over again. The blessed woman doesn't pretend that life hasn't hurt her. She's not interested in masks or pretending. She's felt the weight of sorrow, the ache of unanswered questions, the sting of being misunderstood. But instead of numbing it or ignoring it, she did the harder thing: she faced it. She sat with it. She owned it. Because she knows that healing begins the moment we stop running from the wound and start asking it what it's here to teach us. And that's where her superpower is born, not in avoiding the pain, but in transforming it. This woman knows that every scar tells a story, not one of defeat, but of rebirth, of rising again, of finding strength in places she didn't know existed. And when the world looked at her and asked how she kept going, she didn't have a perfect answer, she just knew she wasn't done yet. Healing didn't make her bitter, it made her brilliant. It made her more empathetic, more present, more real. Because when you've been shattered and rebuilt, you begin to see others differently. You stop judging, you start listening. You lead with compassion because you remember what it felt like to be on the floor, praying for a break, through no one else could see. The blessed woman doesn't deny her past, but she doesn't live in it either. She doesn't get stuck in cycles. She doesn't carry the same broken narratives forever. She does the work. She asks the hard questions. She forgives what hurt her, not to excuse it, but to free herself from it. That's what makes her dangerous in the best way. She's not easy to shake. She's grounded. She's been through enough to know that storms come, but they also pass. And on the other side, there's a new version of herself waiting to be discovered. And let's be clear, healing isn't always pretty. It's messy. It's full of doubt. Some days it looks like progress, and other days it looks like tears on the kitchen floor. But she keeps showing up for herself. That's the real work. That's the power. She's learned to trust her own timing. Not everything needs to be rushed. Some wounds take longer to close, and that's okay. The goal isn't to pretend you're fine. The goal is to become whole, and through it all, she becomes a light for others. Not by preaching, but simply by being. Her presence says, you can survive this. You can heal from this, and you can still live a beautiful life even with a past. She doesn't hide her story, she honors it. She knows her healing journey can be someone else's roadmap, so she shares. She speaks with honesty, with depth, and with the kind of wisdom that only comes from walking through fire and refusing to be burned. Her power doesn't come from perfection. It comes from her process. She's not the same woman she was, and she's grateful for that. Because the version of her that exists now isn't just alive, she's awake. She's whole, and she's ready to use everything she's been through to lift others. Healing didn't just save her, it made her unstoppable. Let me know if you'd like this turned into a podcast script, video narration, or Instagram carousel. Happy to help you form at it however you need. A blessed woman doesn't walk by sight alone, she walks by something deeper, something rooted, something unshakable. Her life is built not just on goals or plans, but on faith. Faith is not just a part of her life, it is the foundation. It's what carries her when logic falls short and when the world around her doesn't make sense. Faith is not always loud. Sometimes it's a whisper in the dark. Sometimes it's a silent surrender when the answers won't come. But for the blessed woman, it's constant. It's the thread that holds everything together when it all feels like it's unraveling. She's been through seasons that could have broken her, storms that would have buried someone else, but she kept standing. Not because she was the strongest or the smartest or the most equipped, but because her faith told her, "This is not the end, keep going." And so she did. Her faith isn't about having everything figured out. It's not a neat, tidy belief system with perfect Sunday answers. No, it's raw, it's real. It's built in the trenches of uncertainty. It's built in the nights she cried and prayed and wondered if anyone was listening. It's built in the waiting, in the silence, in the unanswered prayers. And yet, she still believes. She believes that purpose often grows from pain, that what was meant to harm her can somehow be turned for good, that even when she's not in control, she's still being guided, that there's a bigger picture, even when she only sees a broken piece. This belief doesn't make her naive, it makes her powerful, because faith isn't blind, it sees more than the eye can. It sees through circumstances, it sees beyond failure, it sees the possibility where others see a dead end. Faith keeps her grounded when life gets chaotic. It centers her. It reminds her that her identity isn't in what she does, or what she owns, or what people say, it's in who she is. And who she is anchored in something eternal. This woman doesn't just have faith for herself, she carries it for others. She becomes the voice of hope in a room full of doubt. She stands in the gap. She prays for people who don't even know she's praying. She speaks life into places that feel lifeless, because she knows, sometimes, faith is the only thing left to give, and it's more than enough. She's not afraid to dream big even when the odds are small, because her dreams don't come from her ego, they come from a deeper place, a place of calling, a place of purpose, a place where faith has whispered, "You were made for more." But she also knows that faith isn't passive. It's not just hoping, it's doing, it's showing up, it's taking the step even when the whole path isn't clear. It's trusting the process, trusting the timing, trusting that even the detours have meaning. There's a peace about her that doesn't make sense to people who haven't walked with faith. A quiet confidence that isn't arrogant, it's anchored. She may not know what tomorrow holds, but she knows who holds her. And that knowing allows her to move through life with boldness, with joy, with resilience. Because for the blessed woman, faith isn't just belief, it's her way of life. It's what guides her choices. It's what shapes her character. It's what fuels her courage, and no matter what comes her way, success or setback, applause or rejection, sunshine or storm, she keeps standing tall. Not because the ground is steady, but because her foundation is.